I watched through the restaurant window as my son-in-law Brandon laughed and kissed another woman. A small boy, maybe 4 years old, sat beside them in a high chair. Brandon reached over and wiped chocolate from the child's mouth with such tenderness that my stomach turned. He wore an expensive watch I'd never seen before. The woman's diamond earrings caught the light as she leaned in to whisper something in his ear. My hands trembled against the cold glass. Inside that restaurant, Brandon was feeding this woman and child lobster and steak. Yesterday, when I'd picked up my granddaughter Gabby from school, I'd noticed the holes in her sneakers. The soles were so thin I could see her socks through them. "Grandma, are you okay?" Gabby's small voice pulled me back 3 hours earlier to when this nightmare began. Let me tell you how I got here, standing in the parking lot of Romano's Steakhouse on a Tuesday evening, watching my world crumble for the second time in 6 years. That morning had started like any other. I'd driven to Brandon's house to take Gabby to her piano lesson. She was 12 now, the same age her mother Simone had been when she'd first asked me to teach her to braid hair. 6 years since I'd lost my baby girl in that terrible car accident. 6 years of sending Brandon $50,000 every year to make sure Gabby had everything she needed. When Gabby opened the door, she looked thin. Too thin. Her school uniform hung loose on her frame, and those shoes, those awful worn-out shoes, made my heart ache. "Is your dad home, sweetheart?" I'd asked. "He left early," Gabby said quietly. "He said he had business meetings all day." Something in her voice made me pause. She wouldn't meet my eyes. We drove to her piano lesson in silence. Gabby stared out the window, her small fingers picking at a loose thread on her backpack. The backpack was old too, I noticed. The same one from 2 years ago, now covered in tape where the seams had split. After her lesson, I took her for ice cream. We sat in a bright red booth at Sal's Diner, and I ordered her a hot fudge sundae. She ate like she hadn't seen food in days, scooping the ice cream so fast she got a headache from the cold. "Slow down, baby," I said gently. "When did you last eat?" Gabby's spoon stopped halfway to her mouth. Her eyes filled with tears. "Gabby?" I reached across the table and took her hand. "Talk to Grandma." "Dad forgot to leave me lunch money again," she whispered. "The cafeteria lady let me have a sandwich, but I had to promise to pay tomorrow." My chest tightened. $50,000 a year and my granddaughter was going hungry? What about breakfast? There wasn't any food in the house. Gabby's voice got smaller. "There hasn't been for a few days. Dad says he's been busy and hasn't had time to shop." I wanted to scream. Instead, I squeezed her hand and said, "Finish your ice cream, baby. Then we're going grocery shopping." We filled 2 carts at the supermarket. Cereal, milk, bread, peanut butter, fresh fruit, vegetables, chicken, pasta. Everything a growing child needed. Gabby's eyes got wide when I added cookies and chips to the cart. "Grandma, that's too much," she said. "Nonsense. You're a growing girl." As we loaded the bags into my car, Gabby grabbed my sleeve. Her fingers dug into the fabric of my blue cardigan. "Grandma, don't send Dad any more money." I froze. "What?" "The money you send him every year. Don't send it anymore." Gabby looked around as if checking to make sure no one could hear. "Just follow him. You'll see." "See what, baby?" "Just follow him today. After you drop me home. He always goes out on Tuesdays around 6 o'clock. He thinks I don't notice, but I do. Please, Grandma. Just follow him once." The fear in her eyes told me everything I needed to know. So I did. I took Gabby home, helped her put away the groceries, and waited in my car down the street. At 6:15, Brandon's black Mercedes pulled out of the driveway. He'd changed into a different suit, this one charcoal gray and clearly expensive. I'd never seen him wear it before. I followed him across town, my heart pounding. 20 minutes later, he pulled into the parking lot of Romano's Steakhouse. I parked several spaces away and watched. A woman got out of a white SUV. She was younger than me, maybe 35, with long dark hair and a red dress that probably cost more than my mortgage payment. She smiled when she saw Brandon. He walked over and kissed her. Not a friendly peck. A real kiss, the kind a husband should save for his wife. Then she opened the back door and lifted out a little boy. Brandon's face lit up. He took the child from her arms and spun him around. The boy giggled and wrapped his arms around Brandon's neck. They looked like a perfect family as they walked into the restaurant together. I sat in my car for 10 minutes, shaking. Then I got out and walked to the window. Now here I was, watching this man I'd trusted with my granddaughter's welfare, living a completely different life. A life funded by my money. Money I'd sent believing it would care for my Simone's child. The waiter brought their food. Lobster for Brandon. Filet mignon for the woman. Chicken fingers for the boy. They held hands across the table and prayed before eating. I thought about Gabby, alone in that house with empty cupboards, wearing shoes with holes, going to school hungry while her father played happy family with strangers. My phone buzzed. A text from Gabby, "Did you follow him?" I typed back, "Yes, baby. Now you see. Please help me, Grandma. I'm scared." 3 dots appeared as she typed again. "He's spending all your money on them. I heard him on the phone last week talking about the 50,000. He told that woman they could take a vacation to Hawaii with it." My vision blurred with tears. Not tears of sadness this time. Tears of rage. I walked back to my car and sat there until my hands stopped shaking. Then I pulled out my phone and made 2 calls. The first was to my best friend Trish. "I need you," I said when she answered. "Something terrible has happened." The second call was to my brother Jerome. He was a lawyer, one of the best family attorneys in the state. "Jerome," I said, "I need your help. It's about Gabby." "What's wrong?" His voice immediately shifted to professional concern. "Brandon has been stealing from her. From me. I need to know my options. All of them. Come to my office first thing tomorrow morning. Bring any documentation you have." I drove home in a daze. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept seeing that little boy's face, kept hearing Gabby's voice saying she was scared. Simone, my beautiful daughter, had died in a car accident 6 years ago. She'd been coming home from work when a drunk driver ran a red light. The police said she died instantly. She'd left behind her husband Brandon and 3-year-old Gabby. At the funeral, Brandon had cried and promised me he'd take care of our girl. He'd held my hand and said, "She's all I have left of Simone. I'll make sure she has everything she needs." I believed him. God help me, I'd believed every word. My lawyer had set up a simple arrangement. Every January, I transferred $50,000 into Brandon's account with the understanding it would be used for Gabby's care. Education, clothing, activities, medical expenses, whatever she needed. Brandon had thanked me profusely each year, sending me photos of Gabby at dance class, at summer camp, smiling in new school clothes. Looking back now, I realized those photos were years old. The dance class photo he'd sent last year showed Gabby at age 9, not 11. The summer camp picture was from before Simone died. How long had he been lying? How long had Gabby been suffering while I'd handed over money like a fool? I got out of bed at 3 in the morning and went to my home office. I pulled out every bank statement, every receipt, every piece of paper related to those payments. I printed emails. I organized everything into folders. Then I opened my laptop and started researching private investigators. If Brandon thought he could steal from my granddaughter, if he thought he could betray my daughter's memory like this, he had no idea who he was dealing with. I was Natasha Reynolds. I'd survived poverty, discrimination, an abusive first marriage, and the loss of my only child. I'd built a successful career as a nurse, bought my own home, and raised my daughter to be strong and kind. Brandon Carter was about to learn that a grandmother's love was fiercer than anything he'd ever faced. By the time the sun rose, I had a plan. And I was ready for war. Trish arrived at my house at 7 in the morning carrying coffee and pastries. She took one look at my face and pulled me into a hug. "Tell me everything," she said. We sat at my kitchen table, and I told her about Gabby's warning, about following Brandon, about the woman and the child. Trish listened without interrupting, her face growing darker with each detail. "That's sorry excuse for a man," she said when I finished. "What are you going to do?" "I'm hiring a private investigator. I'm meeting with Jerome at 9. I need evidence, Trish. Real evidence that will hold up in court." "Court? You're going for custody?" "I'm going for everything. Custody, repayment of the money, whatever it takes to get Gabby out of that house and safe with me." Trish nodded. "What do you need from me?" "Help me stay sane. Help me not do something stupid like confront him before I have all my facts straight." "You've got it. And honey?" Trish squeezed my hand. "You're doing the right thing. Simone would be proud." At 9 o'clock sharp, I sat in Jerome's office. He'd cleared his morning schedule for me. I spread my documents across his conference table while he listened to my story. "This is financial abuse," Jerome said, making notes. "And child neglect at minimum. The question is, can we prove it conclusively enough to get emergency custody? What do we need?" "Documentation of everything. Where the money went, how Gabby has been living, evidence of this other family. I'm going to recommend you hire Rachel Kim. She's the best private investigator I know. She's expensive, but she's worth every penny. I don't care about the cost." Jerome picked up his phone and dialed. "Rachel? Jerome Reynolds. I'm sending you a client. High priority." He paused. "This afternoon?" Perfect. 2 hours later, I sat across from Rachel Kim in her small office downtown. She was a petite woman in her 40s with sharp eyes that missed nothing. She listened to my story, took notes, and asked pointed questions. "How long do you want surveillance?" she asked. "As long as it takes to prove what he's doing." "Understood. I'll start today. I'll need photos of Brandon, his address, his vehicle information, and anything else you can tell me about his routine." I handed her a folder. "It's all in here." Rachel looked through the documents and nodded. "Mrs. Reynolds, I have to ask. Are you prepared for what I might find? Sometimes these investigations reveal more than clients expect. I saw him with another woman and child last night. I'm prepared for whatever else you find." "All right then. I'll be in touch within 48 hours. I drove home feeling like I'd actually done something productive. For the first time since Gabby's warning, I felt like I had some control over the situation. That evening, Gabby called me. "Grandma, can I come stay with you this weekend?" "Of course, baby. Is everything okay?" There was a long pause. "Dad's going out of town. He wants to leave me with a babysitter, but I told him I wanted to stay with you instead." Put him on the phone. I heard muffled voices, then Brandon's smooth voice came through. "Hi, Natasha. Thanks for taking Gabby this weekend. I have a conference in Atlanta." "What conference?" I kept my voice neutral. "Medical sales. It came up last minute. I'll drop her off Friday after school if that works." "That's fine." "Great. She's been asking for you anyway. You know how kids are, always wanting grandma." He laughed, that same easy laugh I'd heard 1,000 times. How had I never heard the falseness in it before? "Brandon, before you go, I've been thinking about this year's payment. I'd like to sit down and discuss how the money is being used. Make sure Gabby has everything she needs." The pause was brief, but I caught it. "Sure, of course. We can talk when I get back from Atlanta. The money has been great. Gabby's doing really well." "I'm glad to hear it. We'll talk soon." I hung up and immediately texted Rachel. Subject: leaving town this weekend. Destination: allegedly Atlanta for medical sales conference. She replied within minutes, "On it. We'll verify." Friday afternoon, Brandon dropped Gabby at my house. She had a small overnight bag that looked nearly empty. "Be good for Grandma," Brandon said, kissing the top of Gabby's head. "I'll pick you up Sunday evening." I watched him drive away, then turned to my granddaughter. She looked exhausted. "Let's get you fed and into a nice bath," I said. "Then we can watch a movie." While Gabby soaked in the tub, I unpacked her bag. 2 shirts, 1 pair of pants, underwear, and socks. No pajamas. No toothbrush. I went to my closet and pulled out one of my old t-shirts for her to sleep in. When she came out, wrapped in a towel, I barely recognized her. Without her school uniform, I could see how much weight she'd lost. Her ribs showed through her skin. "Baby, when did you last see a doctor?" Gabby shrugged. "I don't remember. A long time ago." "We're going to fix that. Monday morning, I'm making you an appointment." That night, we curled up on my couch and watched an old musical. Gabby fell asleep against my shoulder halfway through. I held her, this precious child, and silently promised her mother I wouldn't fail again. My phone buzzed. A text from Rachel. Subject: did not go to Atlanta. Tracked him to a beach house in Hilton Head. Sending photos. 3 photos loaded. Brandon and the woman from the restaurant. Brandon and the little boy building a sandcastle. All 3 of them laughing on a beach towel. The rage that had been simmering in my chest since Tuesday night flared white hot. He'd lied about a conference so he could take his secret family on vacation while Gabby sat home with a babysitter. No, not anymore. I carefully moved Gabby to my guest bedroom and tucked her in. Then I went to my office and started writing down everything I knew, everything I'd seen, everything Gabby had told me. By Sunday evening, I had 15 pages of notes. Rachel called me Monday morning. "Mrs. Reynolds, I have significant findings. Can you come to my office?" "I'll be there in an hour." I dropped Gabby at school first. She hugged me tightly before getting out of the car. "Grandma, thank you for this weekend. I wish I could stay with you all the time." "Soon, baby. I promise." Rachel's office was different when I arrived. She had photos spread across a large table, documents in neat stacks, and a laptop open to what looked like financial records. "Sit down," she said. "This is going to take a while." I sat. Brandon Carter is living a complete double life. The woman's name is Isabella Torres. They've been together for at least 5 years, possibly longer. The child is definitely his. I have birth records, and Brandon is listed as the father. My mouth went dry. 5 years? Simone had only been gone 6 years. It gets worse. Brandon has been renting an apartment across town for 3 years. A nice 2-bedroom place where Isabella and the boy live full-time. I have lease agreements with his name on them. The rent is $2,500 a month. I did quick math in my head. That was $30,000 a year just in rent. What else? He's been taking Isabella on trips multiple times a year. I found credit card statements. Hawaii last year, Disney World the year before, a cruise to the Bahamas 3 years ago. He buys her expensive jewelry. The earrings she was wearing Tuesday night? Those were $5,000 diamond studs purchased in December. Rachel slid a folder across the table. This is just what I found in 1 week. If you want me to keep digging, I guarantee I'll find more. Keep digging. I want everything. There's something else you should know. I checked Gabby's school records. She's been flagged by the counselor for possible neglect. She falls asleep in class. She's been caught taking food from other kids' lunches. Her teachers have noticed, Mrs. Reynolds. They've noticed and no one has done anything. Tears burned my eyes. How did I miss this? Because Brandon is a skilled liar who's been carefully controlling what you see. But now we have evidence. Lots of it. Your brother can use this. I took the folder and stood. Thank you, Rachel. Send me your bill. Not yet. I'm not done working. That afternoon I met with Jerome again. I brought Rachel's folder, my own notes, everything. Jerome went through it all methodically. When he finished, he looked up at me with grim satisfaction. This is enough, he said. More than enough. We file for emergency custody tomorrow. How long will it take? With evidence this strong? We should get a hearing within 2 weeks. Maybe sooner if I push for emergency status based on the neglect. Push for it. I want Gabby out of that house. Natasha, you need to prepare yourself. Brandon will fight this. He might get ugly. Let him try. Jerome nodded. All right then. We go to war. Rachel called me 3 days later. Mrs. Reynolds, we need to meet. I found something you need to see in person. Her tone made my stomach drop. I thought it couldn't get worse. I was wrong. In her office, Rachel had even more documents spread out than before. Bank statements, receipts, photographs, and what looked like legal papers. I went deeper into Brandon's finances, she began. The $50,000 you've been sending him each year? I can track exactly where it went. She pulled up a spreadsheet on her laptop. Year 1 after Simone's death. He used $30,000 to put a down payment on that apartment for Isabella. $5,000 went to a trip to Las Vegas. The remaining $15,000 is unaccounted for, but I found receipts for a new golf club membership and a motorcycle he bought and sold 6 months later. My hands clenched in my lap. None of it went to Gabby. Not that I can find. Year 2, he spent $40,000 on home renovations, but not to his house with Gabby. To his mother's house in Florida. The other $10,000 went to Isabella's credit card bills. Rachel went through each year methodically. Vacations, expensive dinners, a boat he'd bought and kept at a marina, Isabella's nursing school tuition, toys and clothes for their son. In 6 years, I can account for about $12,000 total that might have gone to Gabby. School supplies, 1 year of piano lessons, some groceries. Everything else went to his other life. $288,000, I said quietly. That's what I sent him over 6 years. And my granddaughter got $12,000. If that. Some of those grocery receipts might have been for his time with Isabella. Rachel pulled out another folder. But there's more. I found something that changes everything. She handed me a photograph. It showed Brandon and Isabella at what looked like a courthouse. They were holding hands and smiling. What is this? That photo is from 4 months ago. Mrs. Reynolds, Brandon married Isabella. Legally married her. The room spun. But he was already married to Simone. Simone passed away 6 years ago. He was free to remarry. And he did, quietly, with no announcement. I pulled the marriage certificate. It's real and legal. I stared at the photo. He married her while still pretending to be the grieving widower. Yes, and there's more. I talked to some of Isabella's neighbors. They think Brandon is a traveling salesman who's gone a lot for work. They have no idea he has another child. Isabella tells people that Gabby is his daughter from a previous relationship who lives with her mother. But Gabby's mother is dead. Isabella's neighbors don't know that. They think you're Gabby's maternal grandmother who helps out because the mother works a lot. My head pounded. The lies were so layered, so complex. How had he kept it all straight? Does Isabella know about the money I send? Rachel nodded. I believe so. I found text messages between them. Brandon's phone has cloud backup that he apparently forgot about. I was able to access some of it. In one message from January, right after you made this year's payment, Isabella texted him asking if the check from the old lady came through yet. He responded that yes, it had, and they could go ahead and book the Hawaii trip. Old lady. That's what I was to them. Just an old lady sending money they could spend on their perfect little life. Show me the texts. Rachel hesitated. Mrs. Reynolds, they're cruel. Are you sure? Show me. She pulled up the messages. I read through them, each one a knife to my heart. Isabella, is the kid staying with her grandmother this weekend? Brandon, yeah, I told Natasha I had a conference. We're good. Isabella, perfect. I hate when she's at the house. She's so depressing. Brandon, just a few more years. When she's 18, I'm done. No more pretending to care. Isabella, can't come soon enough. At least the grandmother's money makes it worth it. Brandon, easy money. She feels so guilty about Simone dying that she'd probably send me $1 million if I asked. I set the phone down carefully, afraid I might throw it across the room. There's more, Rachel said gently. I found where Brandon has been telling people that Gabby is troubled. He's been setting up a narrative that she's a difficult child with behavioral problems. I think he's preparing a defense in case anyone questions his parenting. But she's not troubled. She's neglected. We know that. But if this goes to court, he'll try to paint her as the problem, not him. I stood and walked to the window. Outside, people went about their normal lives. They had no idea that my world was shattering. What about the school? I asked. You said they flagged her. I spoke with her school counselor off the record. She's very concerned. Gabby has been coming to school hungry, falling asleep in class, and her grades have dropped significantly this year. The counselor tried to reach Brandon multiple times, but he never returned her calls. Can the counselor testify? If subpoenaed, yes. Jerome will want to talk to her. I turned back to face Rachel. Is there anything else? Anything at all? One more thing. Isabella is pregnant again. About 3 months along. The air left my lungs. Another child. Another mouth for him to feed with money meant for Gabby. Does Gabby know any of this? About Isabella, the marriage, the other child? I don't think so. Brandon has been very careful to keep his two lives separate. But kids are perceptive. She might suspect more than she's saying. I gathered up all the folders and documents. Thank you, Rachel. Send everything to Jerome. I will. Mrs. Reynolds? I'm sorry. I know this isn't easy. None of this is easy. But it's necessary. I drove straight to Jerome's office. His secretary tried to tell me he was in a meeting, but I walked past her desk. Natasha. Jerome looked up from his conference table where 3 people sat. I'm with clients. I need 5 minutes. He must have seen something in my face because he excused himself and led me to his private office. Rachel found more, I said, dumping the folders on his desk. He married Isabella. He's having another child with her. There are text messages where they laugh about me, about Gabby, about the money. Jerome opened the folders and started reading. His jaw tightened with each page. This is good, he said. I mean, it's terrible, but it's exactly what we need. This shows clear pattern of deception and misuse of funds. The texts are particularly damning. Can we use them in court? Absolutely. They go to his character and his intent. These aren't just mistakes, Natasha. This is deliberate, calculated abuse. When can we file? Jerome looked at his calendar. I can have the papers ready by tomorrow. We'll file for emergency custody based on neglect and financial abuse. With this evidence, I think we have a strong chance of getting an immediate hearing. Do it. Natasha, once we file, Brandon will know. He'll lawyer up. This could get messy. I don't care. Gabby needs to be safe, and she's not safe with him. Agreed. Give me 24 hours. I left Jerome's office and sat in my car for a long time. I thought about Simone, about the day she'd introduced me to Brandon. She'd been so happy, so in love. He'd seemed perfect, charming, and attentive. He'd asked my permission before proposing, had promised to love and cherish my daughter forever. What a fool I'd been to believe him. My phone rang. Gabby's school. Mrs. Reynolds? This is Principal Howard. I'm calling about Gabrielle. She's in my office. She's very upset and won't tell us what's wrong. She keeps asking for you. I'll be right there. I broke every speed limit getting to the school. When I arrived, Gabby was curled up in a chair in the principal's office, crying. She ran to me the moment she saw me. Grandma, she sobbed into my shoulder. I've got you, baby. What happened? Dad called the school. He said I'm not allowed to see you anymore. He said you're trying to take me away from him and he's my parent, not you. I looked at the principal over Gabby's head. He said what? Principal Howard looked uncomfortable. Mr. Carter called about an hour ago. He was quite agitated. He said there's been a misunderstanding and that you've been overstepping boundaries. He instructed us not to release Gabrielle to anyone but him. I'm her grandmother. I understand, but he is her legal guardian. Unless you have a court order, my hands are tied. Rachel must have tipped him off somehow. Or maybe he'd noticed her following him. Either way, he knew something was happening. Can I at least stay with her until she calms down? Of course. I held Gabby while she cried. When she finally quieted, I pulled back to look at her face. Baby, I need you to be brave for me. Can you do that? She nodded. Your dad is right that I'm trying to take you away from him. But it's because I love you and I want you to be safe and happy. Do you understand? I want to live with you, Grandma. I know. And I'm doing everything I can to make that happen. But it might take a little while, and during that time you have to be strong. Can you do that for me? I'm scared. I know, baby. But I promise you I will not let anything bad happen to you. No matter what your dad says or does, I am fighting for you. You believe me? Yes. Good. Now, I need you to go back to class and act like everything is normal. If your dad asks about today, you tell him you got upset because you miss your mom. That's all. Don't mention me unless he brings it up. Can you do that? Gabby wiped her eyes and nodded. I hugged her one more time, then watched her walk back to class. My heart broke seeing her small shoulders squared with false bravery. Principal Howard walked me to the front door. Mrs. Reynolds, off the record, if you're trying to help that child, you have my full support. We've been concerned about her for months. Will you testify to that if needed? Absolutely. I drove to Jerome's office again. This time I didn't care about interrupting. Brandon knows, I told him. He called Gabby's school and tried to block me from seeing her. We need to file now. Jerome grabbed his jacket. Let's go to the courthouse. By 5 o'clock that evening, we'd filed for emergency custody. The judge reviewed our petition and set a hearing for 1 week from today. 1 week, Jerome said as we left the courthouse. 7 days. Then we'll know. I called Trish from my car. It's happening. We filed. How do you feel? Terrified. Angry. Determined. That sounds about right. Come over. I'm making dinner. At Trish's house, I finally let myself break down. I cried for Simone, for Gabby, for the trust I'd misplaced and the years I'd wasted being blind. You didn't know, Trish said, rubbing my back. He's a con artist, Natasha. This isn't on you. I should have checked. I should have visited more, paid more attention. Maybe. But you're paying attention now, and that's what matters. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. You're going to regret this. I showed it to Trish. That's Brandon? She asked. Has to be. Another text. Gabby is my daughter. You have no rights. Drop this or I'll make sure you never see her again. I typed back. See you in court. Then I blocked the number and turned off my phone. 1 week. 7 days until the hearing. I just had to hold it together for 7 more days. Jerome called me at 7 in the morning. Brandon's lawyer contacted me. They want to meet before the hearing. Why? Probably to intimidate us or try to negotiate. I think we should take the meeting. It'll give us a chance to see what his strategy is. When? Tomorrow afternoon. 2 o'clock at my office. Can you make it? I'll be there. I spent the rest of the day gathering more evidence with Rachel's help. We drove to Gabby's school and met with her teachers, the counselor, and the cafeteria staff. Mrs. Patterson, Gabby's homeroom teacher, sat across from us with a thick folder. I've been teaching for 22 years and Gabby is one of the saddest cases I've seen. That child is hungry, Mrs. Reynolds. Literally hungry. She opened the folder and showed me attendance records marked with notes. See these? Almost every day this year, I've noted that Gabby appears tired or falls asleep during quiet reading time. She can't concentrate. Her homework is often incomplete. Has anyone contacted her father? Multiple times. He either doesn't answer or makes excuses. Last month I finally got him on the phone. He told me Gabby was being dramatic and that she eats plenty at home. He said she was probably staying up too late playing video games. Does Gabby have video games? Not that I've ever heard her mention. Most of the kids talk about their games constantly. Gabby never does. The school counselor, Mr. Chin. Wait, I can't use Chin. Let me rename him. The school counselor, Mr. Roberts, pulled out his own records. I've been documenting concerns since September. Gabby came to my office 6 times in the first month of school alone. She never wanted to talk about what was wrong, but I noticed she was always hungry. I started keeping granola bars in my desk just for her. He showed me a log where he'd written dates and notes. Each entry made my heart sink lower. September 12th. Gabby came in during lunch. Said she forgot her lunch money. Gave her a granola bar. She ate it so fast I gave her another. September 19th. Found Gabby crying in the hallway. Wouldn't say why. Gave her crackers and juice. She drank the juice in 3 gulps. October 3rd. Gabby asked if she could eat lunch in my office. Other kids were teasing her about her clothes. Her shoes have holes in them. October 24th. Called Mr. Carter again. No answer. Left 4th message. I failed her, Mr. Roberts said quietly. I should have called child services. Why didn't you? Rachel asked. Because on paper, everything looked fine. Her father has a good job, a nice house. She wasn't being physically abused. I thought maybe I was overreacting, that it was just a rough patch after losing her mother. He looked at me with red eyes. I was wrong. I should have pushed harder. You're pushing now, I said. Will you testify? Absolutely. I'll tell the judge everything. We met with the cafeteria manager next, Mrs. Lopez. She'd been keeping her own records. That baby hasn't had lunch money in weeks, she said, her accent thick with emotion. I've been feeding her anyway. What am I supposed to do, let a child starve? But I had to report it to the principal because the district has rules. How often does she not have money? 3-4 days a week. Sometimes the whole week. I give her a full lunch anyway, but she's supposed to bring the money the next day. She never does. What does she eat when she does have money? She buys the cheapest thing on the menu and asks for extra bread. Sometimes she saves half her sandwich in a napkin. I think she's taking it home for dinner. My throat closed up. I couldn't speak. Rachel asked the next question. Has Mr. Carter paid the outstanding lunch balance? No. We've sent 3 letters home. The balance is over $300 now. $300 in lunch money. I'd sent Brandon $50,000 in January, and he couldn't pay for his daughter's school lunch. We got signed statements from all of them, promising to testify if needed. Our last stop was Gabby's pediatrician's office. I'd made her an appointment for that afternoon, using the medical power of attorney Simone had given me years ago that had never been revoked. Dr. Williams had been Gabby's doctor since birth. She'd also been Simone's doctor growing up. She knew our family. When she examined Gabby, her face grew grim. She measured and weighed her, checked her vitals, asked questions. When did you last eat, sweetheart? Dr. Williams asked gently. Grandma brought me breakfast this morning, Gabby said. Before that, yesterday at lunch at school. What about dinner last night? Dad wasn't home. There wasn't anything to make. Dr. Williams looked at me over Gabby's head. The anger in her eyes matched my own. After the exam, Dr. Williams brought us both into her office. Gabby is significantly underweight for her age and height. She's showing signs of malnutrition, including hair thinning, brittle nails, and delayed development. Her growth has been stunted. She should be several inches taller based on her previous growth charts. Can you document this? I asked. I already am. I'm also filing a report with Child Protective Services. This is medical neglect, Mrs. Reynolds. Clear and severe. We have a custody hearing next week. Good. I'll testify. I'll bring her complete medical records showing the decline in her health over the past 2 years. This didn't happen overnight. This is prolonged, systematic neglect. That night, I helped Gabby with her homework at my kitchen table. She was staying with me temporarily, with Brandon's reluctant permission after the school principal had called him and strongly suggested it would be in Gabby's best interest. Grandma? Gabby looked up from her math worksheet. Are you really going to make me live with you? I'm trying, baby. The judge has to decide. What if the judge says no? I put down my pen and took her hand. Then I'll keep fighting until the answer is yes. But Gabby, I need to ask you something. If the judge talks to you, will you be able to tell the truth about living with your dad? She bit her lip. Will Dad be mad? Probably. But here's what I want you to understand. Sometimes telling the truth makes people angry, especially when the truth shows they've done something wrong. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't tell it. Do you understand? I think so. Your dad might get upset. He might say things to try to make you feel bad. But none of what's happening is your fault. You've done nothing wrong. You're just a kid who deserves to be taken care of properly. I'm scared of him, Grandma. This was the first time she'd said it out loud. Has he ever hurt you? Not like hitting. But he gets really angry sometimes. He yells and throws things. He punches walls. One time he broke a plate against the kitchen wall, and I had to clean it up because he said it was my fault for making him mad. I wrote this down. What made him mad? I asked for new shoes. He said I was ungrateful and spoiled. Every new piece of information made me more determined. This man would not raise my granddaughter another day if I had anything to say about it. The next afternoon, I sat in Jerome's conference room across from Brandon and his lawyer, a sharp-looking woman named Ms. Hunt. Brandon wouldn't meet my eyes. Good. You should be ashamed. Let's get right to it, Ms. Hunt said. My client is willing to agree to a visitation schedule that allows Mrs. Reynolds to see Gabrielle regularly. In exchange, you drop the custody petition. No, I said. Mrs. Reynolds, let's be reasonable. Mr. Carter is Gabrielle's legal parent. Courts favor keeping children with their parents. Courts also favor children not starving, Jerome said mildly. We have extensive documentation of neglect. Neglect is a strong word, Ms. Hunt said. My client has been under financial stress. I laughed. Actually laughed. Financial stress? I've given him $300,000 over 6 years. Brandon finally looked at me. That money was for Gabby. Then where did it go? Because it certainly didn't go to her school lunch account. Or her shoes. Or food for the house. I don't have to explain my finances to you. Actually, Jerome said, you do. Mrs. Reynolds has documentation of where every penny went. Or should I say where it didn't go? He slid a folder across the table. Trips to Hawaii. Diamond earrings for your wife Isabella. Rent for your apartment. A boat. Your mother's home renovation. Shall I continue? Ms. Hunt opened the folder. Her expression flickered just for a moment. She hadn't known about all of this. These are private expenditures, she said, but her voice had lost some of its confidence. Made with money specifically designated for a child's care, Jerome countered. That's fraud. And possibly embezzlement, depending on how the original agreement was structured. There was no formal agreement, Ms. Hunt said. There were emails each year where Mrs. Reynolds clearly stated the money was for Gabrielle's care, education, and well-being. Mr. Carter acknowledged and agreed to those terms. That constitutes a contract. Brandon slammed his hand on the table. This is ridiculous. She's my daughter. You can't take her from me. We're not taking her, I said quietly. We're saving her. From what? I've given her a home, food, clothes. Clothes with holes. Food she has to beg for at school. A home where she sleeps afraid. She's lying. Are her teachers lying? Her doctor? The cafeteria staff? The school counselor? Jerome pulled out another folder. We have statements from all of them. Signed, dated, notarized. Miss Hunt held up a hand. Mr. Carter, perhaps we should discuss this privately. They stepped out of the room. Jerome turned to me. That went well. He's not going to agree. I know. But now his lawyer knows exactly what we have. She'll advise him accordingly. 20 minutes later they returned. Brandon looked like he wanted to hit something. Ms. Hunt looked professional but cautious. We need time to review the evidence and prepare our response, she said. We'll see you at the hearing. One more thing, Jerome said. We'll be requesting that Gabrielle remain with Mrs. Reynolds until the hearing. Given the evidence of neglect, we believe it's in her best interest. Absolutely not, Brandon said. Then we'll let the judge decide tomorrow. I'm filing an emergency motion first thing in the morning. After they left, I slumped in my chair. That was awful. That was necessary, Jerome corrected. And it worked. Did you see his lawyer's face when she saw the evidence? She knows they're in trouble. What happens now? We go before a judge tomorrow for the emergency custody order. If we get it, Gabby stays with you until the full hearing. If not, she has to go back to Brandon. I can't let her go back there, Jerome. Then we'd better win tomorrow. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept imagining the judge saying no, imagining having to take Gabby back to that house, back to hunger and fear. At 2 in the morning my phone rang. Trish. I can't sleep either, she said when I answered. Want company? Please. She arrived 20 minutes later with tea and cookies. We sat in my kitchen in our bathrobes, not talking much, just being together. You're going to win, Trish said eventually. You have to. The alternative is unthinkable. What if I don't? Then we keep fighting. But Natasha, you're not going to lose. That man has been caught. His lies are exposed. No judge with any sense will send that child back to him. I hope she was right. The next morning, Jerome and I stood before Judge Coleman. She was a stern woman in her 50s with sharp eyes and no patience for nonsense. She reviewed our emergency motion and the evidence. Brandon and Ms. Hunt sat on the other side of the courtroom. "Mr. Carter," Judge Coleman said, "I've reviewed the documentation submitted by Mrs. Reynolds. Do you have a response to the allegations of neglect?" Brandon stood. "Your Honor, my mother-in-law is exaggerating. Gabrielle is well cared for. She has a home, food, everything she needs. Then why does her school have $300 in unpaid lunch fees? That's an oversight. I'll pay it today." "An oversight that lasted 3 months?" Judge Coleman looked skeptical. "What about the medical reports showing malnutrition?" "Gabrielle is a picky eater." "Picky eaters don't lose 20% of their body weight, Mr. Carter. They don't show signs of stunted growth." She flipped through more pages. "It says here you received $50,000 in January. Where did that money go?" "Living expenses, Your Honor." "Living expenses? While your daughter went hungry?" Judge Coleman set down the papers. "I'm granting temporary emergency custody to Mrs. Reynolds pending the full hearing. Gabrielle will remain with her grandmother. You'll have supervised visitation 2 hours per week." "Your Honor, please," Brandon started. "My decision is final. The full custody hearing is set for 1 week from today. I suggest you spend that time preparing a better explanation than what I've heard today. We're adjourned." Jerome squeezed my shoulder as we left the courtroom. We won the first round. But it wasn't over yet. Not by a long shot. Gabby's relief when I told her she could stay with me was visible. Her whole body seemed to relax, like she'd been holding tension for months and could finally let go. "Really? I don't have to go back." "Not until the hearing. And if everything goes right, not even then." She hugged me so tight I could barely breathe. "Thank you, Grandma. Thank you, thank you, thank you." That weekend we went shopping. Real shopping, not the quick trips for necessities we'd been doing. I took her to the mall and told her to pick out clothes she actually liked. "Anything?" she asked, eyes wide. "Within reason. You need school clothes, play clothes, something nice for the hearing. Let's get you properly outfitted." She chose bright colors. A red sweater, a green dress, blue jeans, a maroon jacket. She'd been wearing drab, ill-fitting hand-me-downs for so long that the joy on her face when she tried on clothes that actually fit made me want to cry. "Can I really have all of these?" "Every single one. You deserve nice things, baby." We got shoes too. 3 pairs. Sneakers for school, sandals for casual wear, and nice flats for the hearing. No more holes, no more worn-out soles. At the checkout, Gabby kept touching the clothes like she couldn't believe they were real. "Grandma, can I ask you something?" "Anything. Why didn't you know?" "About how Dad was treating me." The question hurt, but it was fair. "Because I was foolish, baby. I trusted your dad when I should have been checking up on things myself. I thought the money I sent was enough. I didn't realize I needed to be more involved. That's on me and I'm sorry." "It's not your fault. Dad is really good at lying." "That doesn't excuse me not paying better attention. But I'm paying attention now and I promise you, that will never change." Monday morning, I enrolled Gabby in a better school closer to my house. The principal, Mrs. Thompson, reviewed her records and frowned. "This child has been through a lot," she said. "We have a good counseling program here. I'd like to get her set up with our therapist, Ms. Baker." "That would be wonderful." Gabby started therapy twice a week. Ms. Baker was a kind woman in her 30s who specialized in childhood trauma. After the first session, she asked to speak with me. "Gabby is carrying a lot of fear and guilt," Ms. Baker said. "She blames herself for her father's anger, for the situation at home. We'll need time to work through that. Whatever she needs. I also want to prepare you. As she starts to feel safer, she may open up about things that are difficult to hear. Abuse often has layers we don't see at first. I can handle it." Ms. Baker's expression was gentle. "I'm not worried about you handling it, Mrs. Reynolds. I'm worried about you blaming yourself. What happened to Gabby wasn't your fault." Everyone kept saying that. I wished I could believe it. Wednesday afternoon, Jerome called. "Brandon wants another meeting. Just him and his lawyer, us and you. No negotiation, he says he just wants to talk." "Do we have to?" "No. But it might give us insight into his strategy. Or he might incriminate himself further. I say we do it, but we record everything." "Legal?" "In this state, only one party needs to consent to recording. That party is me." We met in a neutral location, a conference room at the public library. Brandon looked terrible. He'd lost weight, and his expensive suit hung loose on his frame. We sat across from each other. Jerome set his phone on the table, recording light visible. Natasha, Brandon started. Can we talk without the lawyers? No, I said. He flinched. Please. Just 5 minutes. Anything you want to say to my client, you can say in front of me, Jerome said. Brandon rubbed his face. Fine. Natasha, I messed up. I know I did. But please don't take Gabby from me. She's all I have left of Simone. You should have thought of that before you spent her money on your other family. I can explain that. I'm listening. He glanced at his lawyer, who nodded slightly. After Simone died, I was lost. Isabella was there for me. She helped me through the grief. We got close. When she got pregnant, I panicked. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't tell you because you'd hate me for moving on so fast. So you lied instead. Yes, and I know that was wrong. But I was trying to balance everything. 2 families, 2 lives. It got out of control. Out of control? My voice rose. You starved my granddaughter while you took your mistress on vacation. That's not out of control. That's deliberate. I never meant for Gabby to suffer. But she did. She suffered every single day while you played house with Isabella. Brandon's composure cracked. You don't understand the pressure I was under. Trying to keep everyone happy, trying to provide for everyone. With my money, I said. Money I gave you specifically for Gabby. I was going to pay it back. When Gabby turned 18 and aged out of your responsibility? His silence was answer enough. Jerome spoke up. Mr. Carter, let's cut to the chase. Why are we really here? Brandon looked at his lawyer again. She nodded. I'll agree to give Natasha custody if she drops the fraud charges and doesn't pursue repayment of the money. I laughed. You think I care about the money at this point? It's $300,000. It was never about the money. It was about Gabby. And you used her, used me, used my grief over losing Simone to fund your secret life. You're despicable. I loved Simone, he said, and for the first time he sounded genuine. No, you didn't. If you loved her, you wouldn't have betrayed her memory like this. You wouldn't have neglected her child. I did love her. I also loved Isabella. You can't love 2 people like that. You chose Isabella. You chose your son with her. You chose everything except the daughter you already had. Brandon stood abruptly. Fine. You want Gabby? Take her. But don't expect me to pretend I'm the villain here. You're the one tearing this family apart. There is no family, I said. You destroyed it. He stormed out. Ms. Hunt gathered her papers and followed, but not before saying, We'll see you in court. After they left, Jerome stopped the recording. Well, that was enlightening. He actually thinks he's the victim. Narcissists usually do. But he just admitted to fraud and gave us his motive. This recording will be very useful. I sat back in my chair, suddenly exhausted. Is it always going to be like this? Even after we win custody, is he going to keep fighting? Probably. But each time he fights, he'll lose a little more. Eventually he'll give up. They always do when the money runs out. Speaking of money, I want to sue him for the full amount. Every penny he took. We can do that as a separate civil case. But Natasha, you need to prepare yourself. He probably doesn't have it. He spent it. Then he can work 3 jobs for the next 10 years to pay it back. I don't care. I want him to face consequences. We'll make it happen. That evening, Gabby and I made dinner together. Real dinner with vegetables and chicken and rice. She helped me chop carrots, her face serious with concentration. Grandma? What happens after the hearing? If the judge says yes, you come live with me permanently. And Dad? He'll still be your dad. You can see him if you want to, but only when you're ready and only with supervision. I don't want to see him. I stopped chopping. Never? Maybe when I'm older. But not now. Is that bad? No, baby. That's honest. And you're allowed to feel however you feel. Will he be mad? Probably. But that's not your problem to fix. She nodded slowly. Ms. Baker says the same thing. She says I can't control his feelings, only mine. Ms. Baker is right. We ate dinner together, just the 2 of us, and for the first time in years I felt like I was exactly where I needed to be. The hearing was in 3 days. 3 days until we knew if this peace would last. The morning of the hearing, I dressed carefully. A navy blue suit, professional but not cold. Gabby wore her new green dress and looked so much healthier than she had 2 weeks ago. She'd already gained 5 pounds and her face had lost that hollow, haunted look. Jerome met us at the courthouse with Rachel and a stack of folders containing our evidence. Ready? He asked. As I'll ever be. Judge Coleman's courtroom was smaller than I expected. Brandon sat with Ms. Hunt on one side. We took our seats on the other. Isabella was not present, which surprised me. All rise, the bailiff called. Judge Coleman entered and took her seat. She looked over her glasses at both parties. This is a custody hearing for Gabrielle Carter. I've reviewed the preliminary evidence. Today we'll hear testimony and make a final determination on custody arrangements. Mr. Reynolds, you may call your first witness. Jerome stood. We call Dr. Sarah Williams. Gabby's pediatrician took the stand and was sworn in. Jerome walked her through Gabby's medical history. Dr. Williams, can you describe Gabrielle's health status when you examined her 2 weeks ago? Gabrielle was significantly underweight, showing clear signs of malnutrition. Her growth had been stunted. She was at least 3 inches shorter than she should have been based on her previous growth trajectory. Her hair was thinning, her nails were brittle, and she exhibited several vitamin deficiencies. In your professional opinion, what caused this condition? Prolonged inadequate nutrition. In simpler terms, she wasn't getting enough food. Is this something that develops quickly? No. This type of malnutrition takes months, possibly years, to develop. It's the result of consistent, ongoing neglect. Ms. Hunt cross-examined. Dr. Williams, isn't it possible that Gabrielle is simply a picky eater? I've been this child's doctor since birth. She was never a picky eater. Her previous growth charts showed normal, healthy development until approximately 2 years ago. Then the decline began. Could there be a medical condition causing this? We ran comprehensive tests. There's no underlying medical condition. The cause is environmental, not biological. Jerome called Mr. Roberts next, the school counselor. He testified about Gabby's hunger, her deteriorating clothes, her frequent distress. I kept granola bars in my desk specifically for her, Mr. Roberts said. Some days she'd come to my office 3 times just to get food. Did you contact Mr. Carter about your concerns? Multiple times. He either didn't respond or claimed Gabrielle was being dramatic. Mrs. Lopez testified about the unpaid lunch fees and Gabby eating like she was starving. Mrs. Patterson described Gabby falling asleep in class and her declining academic performance. Each witness painted the same picture. A neglected child slipping through the cracks while her father lived another life. Finally, Jerome called me to the stand. Mrs. Reynolds, please describe your relationship with Gabrielle. She's my granddaughter. My daughter Simone's only child. After Simone passed away, I made it my mission to make sure Gabby was taken care of. How did you attempt to fulfill that mission? I sent Brandon $50,000 every year, specifically designated for Gabby's care. Education, clothing, food, activities, medical expenses. Whatever she needed. Did you monitor how this money was spent? I trusted Brandon to use it appropriately. That was my mistake. What changed? Gabby warned me. She told me to follow her father, that I'd see where the money was really going. So I did. I described following Brandon to the restaurant, seeing him with Isabella and their son. Jerome entered the photographs from that night into evidence. How did you feel when you saw this? Betrayed. Angry. Heartbroken. But mostly, I felt guilty that I hadn't noticed sooner. Ms. Hunt's cross-examination was aggressive. Mrs. Reynolds, you're 62 years old. How do you plan to raise an active 12-year-old at your age? The same way I raised my daughter. With love, attention, and proper care. Don't you think Gabrielle should be with her father? I think Gabrielle should be with whoever will actually feed her and keep her safe. That's clearly not her father. Isn't it true that you disapproved of Mr. Carter moving on after your daughter's death? I disapproved of him lying about it while neglecting his daughter. You've always been controlling, haven't you? First with your daughter, now with your granddaughter? Jerome objected. Relevance. Sustained, Judge Coleman said. Ms. Hunt, stick to the facts of this case. After my testimony, Jerome rested our case. Ms. Hunt called Brandon to the stand. He looked nervous as he was sworn in. Ms. Hunt led him through what was clearly a prepared statement. Mr. Carter, do you love your daughter? More than anything in the world. Did you intentionally neglect her? Never. I've been struggling to balance work and parenting since Simone died. I admit I've made mistakes, but I've always tried my best. What about the $50,000 from Mrs. Reynolds? I used it for household expenses. Mortgage, utilities, groceries. Living costs are high. Did any of it go to Gabrielle specifically? All of it benefited her. A roof over her head, heat, electricity. Those are necessities. Jerome's cross-examination demolished him. Mr. Carter, you testified that you used the money for household expenses. Do you own your home? No, I rent. What's your monthly rent? $1,500. That's $18,000 per year. What happened to the other $32,000? Brandon hesitated. Other expenses. Such as? I don't have an itemized list. But you do claim the money went to Gabrielle's care? Yes. Jerome pulled out a folder. I have here credit card statements showing you spent $5,000 on diamond earrings in December. Who were those for? That's personal. Were they for Gabrielle? No. I also have a receipt for a trip to Hawaii in February. $2,200. Did Gabrielle go on this trip? No. Who did? Objection, Ms. Hunt said. Relevance. Your Honor, this goes directly to how Mr. Carter spent money designated for his daughter's care. I'll allow it. Answer the question, Mr. Carter. Brandon's jaw tightened. My wife and son. A murmur went through the courtroom. Judge Coleman's eyebrows rose. Your wife? Jerome asked. You remarried? Yes. When? 4 months ago. And did you use any of Mrs. Reynolds's money for this wedding? Some of it might have gone toward that. Some of it? How much? I don't recall exactly. Jerome pulled out another document. I have the wedding invoice. $12,000. Did you spend $12,000 of Gabrielle's money on your wedding to another woman? Brandon's face flushed red. I was trying to build a stable life. A stable life that didn't include making sure your daughter had lunch money? I forgot about the lunch account. For 3 months. I've been busy. Too busy to feed your child, but not too busy to take vacations and buy expensive jewelry? You're twisting everything. I'm simply asking about your priorities, Mr. Carter. Let me ask you this. How often does Gabrielle go hungry? She doesn't go hungry. Her doctor, teachers, and school counselor all testified that she exhibits signs of chronic hunger. Are they all lying? They're exaggerating. Gabrielle has lost 20% of her body weight. Is that an exaggeration? Brandon didn't answer. Mr. Carter, do you love Gabrielle? Yes. Then why does your son with Isabella get new toys while Gabrielle wears shoes with holes? It's complicated. It seems quite simple to me. You chose one child over the other. You chose your new family over your daughter. That's not true. Then explain to this court why Gabrielle was found malnourished and neglected while you lived comfortably with your wife and son. Brandon's composure shattered. Because she reminds me of Simone, okay? Every time I look at her, I see Simone and it hurts. It hurts so much I can barely stand it. Being around Isabella and our son is easier because there's no pain there. Is that what you want to hear? That I'm a terrible father because I couldn't handle the grief. The courtroom went silent. Judge Coleman leaned forward. Mr. Carter, grief is understandable. Using it as an excuse to neglect your child is not. Continue, Mr. Reynolds. Jerome pressed on. So you admit you've been avoiding Gabrielle because she reminds you of your late wife? I didn't avoid her. You left her alone without food. You ignored calls from her school. You spent her money on your other family. What would you call that? Brandon didn't answer. No further questions, Your Honor. Ms. Hunt tried to rehabilitate her client, but the damage was done. Brandon had admitted he'd chosen his pain over his daughter's welfare. The final witness was Gabby herself. Judge Coleman called a recess and brought Gabby into her chambers. Jerome and Ms. Hunt were allowed to be present, but not Brandon or me. It killed me not to be there, but I understood. Gabby needed to speak freely without her father or me in the room. 30 minutes later they emerged. Gabby's eyes were red from crying, but she held her head high. She walked straight to me and took my hand. Judge Coleman returned to the bench and looked at both parties. I've heard extensive testimony today. I've reviewed medical records, school reports, financial documents, and most importantly, I've spoken with Gabrielle herself. This is one of the clearer cases of neglect I've seen in my years on this bench. She turned to Brandon. Mr. Carter, I understand that grief can be overwhelming. I sympathize with your loss. However, that grief does not excuse your failure to provide basic care for your daughter. You received significant financial support specifically for her welfare and chose to spend it on your own comfort instead. Your Honor, I can do better, Brandon said, standing. Sit down, Mr. Carter. I'm not finished. Judge Coleman's voice was steel. The evidence shows a pattern of deliberate neglect spanning at least 2 years. Your daughter went hungry while you vacationed. She wore inadequate clothing while you bought luxury items. She suffered while you pretended everything was fine. She looked at her notes. Furthermore, your admission that you avoided Gabrielle because she reminded you of your late wife is particularly troubling. This child lost her mother. She needed her father's love and support, and you withdrew from her because of your own pain. That is not parenting. That is abandonment. Brandon's lawyer touched his arm, keeping him seated. I'm granting full legal and physical custody of Gabrielle Carter to her grandmother, Natasha Reynolds. Relief flooded through me. Gabby squeezed my hand tight. Mr. Carter, you will have supervised visitation rights, 2 hours per week, pending completion of parenting classes and family therapy. These visits will only occur if Gabrielle agrees to them. I will not force this child to see you if she's not ready. Your Honor, please, Brandon said. I'm also ordering you to repay Mrs. Reynolds the full amount of $288,000 that was designated for Gabrielle's care. A separate civil court will determine the payment schedule, but you will repay every cent. I don't have that kind of money. Then I suggest you get a second job. You found money for vacations and jewelry. You'll find money for this. Additionally, you will pay child support of $1,500 per month to Mrs. Reynolds for Gabrielle's ongoing care. Brandon's face went pale. Finally, I'm ordering a full investigation into potential fraud charges. The district attorney's office will be contacted about your misuse of funds. This court is adjourned. The gavel came down. We'd won. Completely, totally won. Gabby burst into tears and threw her arms around me. I get to stay with you? Forever, baby. You get to stay forever. Jerome shook my hand. Congratulations, Natasha. You did it. Across the room, Brandon sat with his head in his hands. Ms. Hunt was packing up her briefcase, already moving on to her next case. I felt no sympathy for him. Only relief that Gabby was finally truly safe. The days following the custody ruling felt surreal. I kept expecting someone to call and say there'd been a mistake, that Gabby had to go back. But no call came. The ruling was final. Jerome handled the paperwork to make everything official. Gabby's school records were transferred to her new school. I set up a college fund with some of the money I'd saved over the years. We established routines, normal family routines that Gabby had never really known. But I couldn't stop thinking about what had happened in Judge Coleman's chambers. Gabby wouldn't tell me what she'd said, and I didn't want to push. Ms. Baker said she'd talk about it when she was ready. It took 3 weeks. We were planting flowers in the garden, our hands dirty with soil, when Gabby suddenly spoke. The judge asked me if I was scared of Dad. I kept my hands busy with the petunias, giving her space to continue. I told her yes. She asked why, and I told her everything. About the yelling, about Dad throwing things, about how he'd lock himself in his room for days and I'd have to fend for myself. How old were you when that started? I think I was 7 or 8. Right after Mom died, he was sad a lot. Then he met Isabella and he started leaving more. At first, it was just a few hours. Then whole weekends. He'd tell me to stay with neighbors, but I didn't want to bother them, so I'd stay home alone. My chest tightened. 7 years old and home alone for entire weekends. Did you tell anyone? No. Dad said if I told anyone, they'd take me away and put me in foster care. He said foster care was terrible, that kids got hurt there. I was more scared of that than being alone. I set down my trowel and pulled her close, not caring about the dirt. Oh, baby. The judge asked if I wanted to see Dad anymore. I said no. She asked if I might change my mind later, and I said maybe when I'm older. She said that was fine, that I got to decide. You do get to decide. Always. She also asked about you. If you were nice to me, if you made me feel safe. I told her you were the only person who ever really took care of me after Mom died. Tears streamed down my face. I should have been there sooner. You're here now. That's what matters. We finished planting the flowers in silence. Bright red geraniums, blue petunias, yellow marigolds. Colors that made the garden look alive and happy. That evening, Jerome called. The DA is moving forward with fraud charges against Brandon. They want you to testify about the money transfers and the original agreement. When? Preliminary hearing is in 2 months. The trial, if it goes to trial, would be next year. Will Gabby have to testify? Probably not for the criminal case. The fraud is between you and Brandon. But she may need to testify in the civil case for repayment. I don't want to put her through that. We'll see if we can use her statement from the custody hearing. Judge Coleman might allow it. The next morning, I got a call from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Mrs. Reynolds? A woman's voice, young and nervous. Yes. This is Isabella Torres. I need to talk to you. Every muscle in my body tensed. I have nothing to say to you. Please just give me 5 minutes. It's about Brandon and the money. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know about Gabby. You didn't know he had a daughter? I knew he had a daughter. I didn't know she was being neglected. He told me she lived with you most of the time, that you wanted to raise her. I gripped the phone tighter. And you believe that? Why wouldn't I? He showed me pictures of her at your house, happy and healthy. He said you insisted on taking care of her because you missed your daughter. Those pictures were years old. I know that now. Mrs. Reynolds, I'm pregnant again. I have a 4-year-old and another baby coming. Brandon is facing criminal charges. I don't know what to do. That's not my problem. I understand. But I wanted you to know that I'm leaving him. I'm taking the kids and moving back to my mother's in Texas. I don't want anything to do with this mess. Good for you. I also wanted to apologize. Not that it matters or changes anything, but I'm sorry. If I'd known the truth about Gabby, I never would have. I would have said something. Would you have? Or would you have kept quiet to protect your comfortable life? The line went silent for a moment. I'd like to think I would have done the right thing. But honestly, I don't know. I was in love with him, and love makes you stupid sometimes. Love doesn't excuse enabling child neglect. You're right. It doesn't. I just wanted you to know that I'm sorry and I'm leaving. Brandon will be alone now. Maybe that's what he deserves. She hung up before I could respond. I stood there holding the phone, feeling nothing. No satisfaction, no vindication. Just emptiness where anger used to be. Trish came over that afternoon. I told her about Isabella's call. Do you think she's telling the truth? That she didn't know? Maybe. Or maybe she's trying to save herself now that everything's falling apart. I don't really care either way. That's growth, Trish said. 6 months ago you would have cared. 6 months ago I didn't know what Brandon was capable of. Now I do, and I'm just focused on Gabby. How is she doing? Better every day. She's gaining weight, smiling more. Ms. Baker says she's making good progress in therapy. And you? I'm okay. Tired but okay. Trish squeezed my hand. You saved her, Natasha. Don't forget that. 2 weeks later, Rachel called with news. Brandon's in financial trouble. He lost his job. Apparently, his employer found out about the fraud charges and terminated him. He's trying to sell his house, but he owes more than it's worth. What about the repayment order? He's filed for bankruptcy. It might not stick because fraud debts aren't usually dischargeable, but he's trying. Of course he is. There's more. Isabella did leave him. Filed for divorce last week. She's asking for full custody of their son and child support. Good. Natasha, he's circling the drain. Lost his job, his wife, his kids. The criminal trial starts in 3 months. He's looking at possible jail time. I should have felt victorious. Instead, I just felt sad. Sad for Simone, who'd loved this man. Sad for Gabby, who'd lost her father long before the court took him away. Sad for the waste of it all. Thanks for the update, Rachel. One more thing. I'm closing my investigation. You have everything you need for the court cases. Unless you want me to keep digging? No. We're done. Send me your final bill. I hung up and looked out the window. Gabby was in the backyard, reading a book under the big oak tree. She looked peaceful. Content. That's what mattered. Not Brandon's downfall, not Isabella's regrets, not the criminal case or the money. Just Gabby, safe and healing. That night, Gabby asked me about her mother. What was Mom like when she was my age? We sat on the couch looking through photo albums. I showed her pictures of Simone at 12, 13, 14. She was brave, I said. And funny. She had this laugh that would make everyone around her start laughing too. Do I look like her? You have her eyes and her smile. But you're your own person, baby. Your own unique, wonderful person. Do you think she'd be proud of me? I know she would be. She'd be so proud of how strong you've been, how brave. Even though I testified against Dad? Especially because of that. Your mom always believed in telling the truth even when it was hard. Gabby leaned against my shoulder. I miss her. Me too, baby. Every single day. But I'm glad I have you. I'm glad I have you too. We sat there looking at pictures until Gabby fell asleep. I carried her to bed, tucked her in, and watched her sleep for a moment. She looked so different from the hollow-eyed child I'd picked up just 2 months ago. Her face had filled out. Her skin glowed with health. Her sleep was peaceful, not restless. This was victory. Not the court ruling or Brandon's consequences. This right here. A child sleeping soundly, knowing she was safe and loved. Everything else was just details. The criminal trial began on a rainy Monday in October. I sat in the courtroom with Jerome, watching as the prosecution laid out their case against Brandon. The charges were serious: fraud, embezzlement and child endangerment. The prosecutor, a sharp woman named Ms. Franklin, methodically presented evidence of how Brandon had systematically stolen money meant for Gabby's care. The defendant received $288,000 over 6 years, Ms. Franklin told the jury. This money was explicitly designated for his daughter's care. Instead, he spent it on vacations, jewelry, rent for his girlfriend's apartment, and personal luxuries while his daughter went hungry. She showed the jury photos of Gabby from 2 years ago, healthy and bright. Then photos from 2 months ago, gaunt and hollow-eyed. The contrast was stark. Brandon's new lawyer, a public defender named Mr. Shaw, tried to argue that there was no formal contract, that the money was a gift Brandon could use as he saw fit. Mrs. Reynolds gave money to Mr. Carter voluntarily, with no legal strings attached. While his choices may have been poor, they weren't criminal. But Ms. Franklin had the emails. Every year, I'd written that the money was specifically for Gabby's education, health, and well-being. Brandon had acknowledged and agreed to these terms in writing. This establishes a clear agreement, Ms. Franklin argued. The defendant accepted money under false pretenses and used it for unauthorized purposes. That's fraud. The trial lasted a week. Witnesses testified. Dr. Williams about Gabby's malnutrition, school staff about the neglect, Rachel about Brandon's secret life. I testified again, walking the jury through each year's payment and what I believed it would be used for. Did you ever imagine your money would be spent on diamond earrings and tropical vacations while your granddaughter went hungry? Miss Franklin asked. Never. If I'd known, I would have stopped the payments immediately and taken custody of Gabby years ago. Brandon took the stand in his own defense. Was a mistake. Mr. Carter, Miss Franklin said during cross-examination. You testified that you loved your daughter. Is that correct? Yes. Yet you spent $50,000 on a wedding to another woman while Gabrielle wore shoes with holes in them? I was trying to build a new life. At your daughter's expense? It wasn't like that. Then please explain to the jury what it was like. Brandon stumbled through an explanation that made no sense. He tried to claim he'd intended to pay Gabby back, that he'd just been borrowing against her future care. So you stole from your daughter with the intention of paying her back someday? I wouldn't call it stealing. What would you call taking money designated for one purpose and using it for something completely different? A mistake. A 6-year mistake? Costing nearly $300,000? The jury deliberated for less than 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. Brandon's face went white when the verdict was read. His lawyer immediately began talking about appeals, but I could see in Brandon's eyes that he knew it was over. Sentencing was scheduled for 3 weeks later. In the meantime, the civil case for repayment moved forward. Brandon had declared bankruptcy, but Jerome argued successfully that fraud debts couldn't be discharged. Mr. Carter will pay back every penny, Jerome told me after the hearing, even if it takes the rest of his life. I don't even care about the money anymore, I admitted. I just want him to face consequences. He will. The criminal sentencing is coming up. Judge Coleman doesn't take kindly to child endangerment. At the sentencing hearing, Judge Coleman looked older, tireder. She'd clearly been affected by this case. Mr. Carter, I gave you every opportunity to do right by your daughter. Instead, you chose greed and selfishness. You betrayed not only the trust of a woman who'd lost her only child but the welfare of your own daughter. She reviewed the pre-sentencing report, which included letters from Gabby's teachers, her doctor, and Ms. Baker. I have here a letter from Gabrielle herself, Judge Coleman said. Would you like to hear what your daughter has to say about you? Brandon shook his head, tears streaming down his face. I'm going to read it anyway. The judge adjusted her glasses. Dear Judge Coleman, my dad wasn't always bad. When my mom was alive, he was fun and nice. After she died, he changed. He got angry a lot and stopped paying attention to me. I used to think it was my fault, that I reminded him too much of mom and that made him sad. But Ms. Baker says it's not my fault. She says adults are supposed to take care of kids no matter what. I don't want Dad to go to jail, but I also don't want to see him right now. Maybe when I'm older. I just wanted you to know that I'm okay now. Grandma takes good care of me. I have enough food and new clothes and friends at school. I'm happy for the first time in years. Thank you for helping me. Sincerely, Gabrielle Carter. The courtroom was silent. Judge Coleman set down the letter. Mr. Carter, I sentence you to 5 years in prison with the possibility of parole after 3. Additionally, you will be required to attend parenting classes and therapy. Upon your release, any visitation with Gabrielle will be at her discretion and under supervision. You will also continue to pay restitution and child support. Brandon's lawyer stood. Your Honor, my client would like to make a statement. Very well. Brandon stood, his hands shaking. He looked directly at me for the first time since the trial began. Natasha, I'm sorry. I know that's not enough, but it's all I have. I let grief turn me into someone I don't recognize. I hurt Gabby, I hurt you, I dishonored Simone's memory. I don't expect forgiveness. I just want you both to know that I'm sorry. He turned to the judge. I'll accept whatever sentence you give me. I deserve it. Judge Coleman nodded. I appreciate your remorse, Mr. Carter. I hope you use your time in prison to become the man your daughter deserves. This court is adjourned. The bailiff led Brandon away. He looked back once, his eyes searching the gallery. Looking for Gabby maybe, but she wasn't there. I'd made sure of that. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Jerome handled them while I slipped out a side entrance with Trish. It's over, Trish said. It's really over. It is. How do you feel? I thought about it. Relieved. Sad. Grateful. All of it at once. We drove back to my house where Gabby waited with Mrs. Thompson, her principal who'd volunteered to stay with her during the sentencing. Gabby looked up when I walked in. What happened? Your dad is going to prison for a few years. After that, you only have to see him if you want to. She nodded slowly, processing this. Is it bad that I'm not sad? No, baby. You feel however you need to feel. Okay. Can we have pizza for dinner? Just like that, she moved on. Kids were resilient like that. While I was still processing everything, she was already looking forward to dinner. Pizza sounds perfect. That night, after Gabby went to bed, I sat in my home office and looked at the final settlement papers. Brandon would pay me back $1,500 a month for the rest of his working life. It would take decades, but eventually I'd recover the money. But that's not what any of this had been about. It had been about protecting Gabby, about honoring Simone's memory, about doing what was right even when it was hard. I pulled out a photo of Simone, one from her college graduation. She was smiling, her whole life ahead of her, no idea that it would be cut short at 32. I got her, baby, I whispered to the photo. I got our girl and she's safe now. I promise I'll take care of her the way you would have. The next morning I made Gabby's favorite breakfast, pancakes with strawberries and whipped cream. She came downstairs in her new school uniform, her backpack already packed. Big day today, I said. You're presenting your book report. I'm nervous. You'll do great. You always do. She ate her pancakes and chattered about school, about her friends, about the science project she was working on. Normal kid stuff. The stuff she should have been doing all along. I drove her to school and watched her run inside, waving to friends. No more shrinking into herself. No more fear. This was what winning looked like. Not the courtroom drama or the guilty verdict. A child running into school, excited about her day, knowing she'd come home to a warm house and a full refrigerator and someone who loved her unconditionally. I'd won. We'd won. And that was everything. 3 months after Brandon's sentencing, I sat in a real estate agent's office, signing papers to sell my large 4-bedroom house. Are you sure about this? The agent asked. It's a beautiful property. I'm sure. It's too big for just Gabby and me. We want something cozier. The house had too many memories anyway. Simone's childhood bedroom, still decorated the way she'd left it. The dining room where we'd hosted Thanksgiving dinners when my husband was still alive. The big backyard where Simone and Brandon had gotten married. Time for a fresh start. I'd already found a perfect house in a better school district. 3 bedrooms, bright and cheerful with big windows that let in lots of light. A smaller yard that would be easier to maintain. Walking distance to Gabby's school and the library. Grandma picked out a house and it's so pretty, Gabby had gushed to Trish. My room has purple walls and there's a window seat where I can read. The sale went through quickly. We spent 2 weeks packing, sorting through years of accumulated belongings. What should we do with this? Gabby asked, holding up a framed photo of her and Brandon from when she was 5. That's up to you, baby. It's your father. If you want to keep it, we keep it. She studied the photo for a long moment. Can we put it in a box in the attic? I don't want to look at it right now, but maybe someday I will. That sounds like a good compromise. We packed away several photos of Brandon, along with cards and letters he'd written before Simone died. Evidence that he hadn't always been a monster. Maybe someday Gabby would want those memories. Maybe not. Either way was okay. Moving day was chaotic but exciting. Trish recruited her sons to help with the heavy furniture. Jerome stopped by with pizza for everyone. Even Rachel showed up with a housewarming gift. I don't usually get personally involved with clients, Rachel said, handing me a wrapped package. But this case was different. Inside was a beautiful photo frame with the words, "Home is where love lives," engraved on it. Thank you. For everything. Just doing my job. But it had been more than that, and we both knew it. Our first night in the new house, Gabby and I ate Chinese takeout sitting on the floor surrounded by boxes. The electricity was on, the heat worked, and we had sleeping bags for the night. Everything else could wait. Grandma? Yes, baby? I like it here. It feels safe. That's because it is safe. This is our home. Yours and mine. Nobody can take that away. She smiled and ate her lo mein, getting sauce on her new red sweater. I didn't even care. She could get sauce on every piece of clothing she owned as long as she was happy. We enrolled Gabby in a youth group at a local community center. She signed up for art classes and joined a book club for kids her age. Slowly she started making friends. One day she came home excited about a birthday party invitation. Melissa invited me to her birthday party at the skating rink. Can I go? Please? Of course you can. When is it? Saturday. She said I could bring a friend if I wanted. Can I invite Taylor from my reading group? Sure. We'll need to get Melissa a gift. We went shopping together, Gabby carefully choosing a gift she thought Melissa would like. She was learning to be a kid again, to think about normal things like birthday parties and friendships instead of survival. Therapy continued twice a week. Ms. Baker reported that Gabby was making excellent progress. She's starting to work through the trauma, Ms. Baker told me in one of our periodic updates. She's understanding that what happened wasn't her fault and that she deserved better. How much longer do you think she'll need therapy? As long as she needs it. Trauma doesn't have a timeline, Mrs. Reynolds. But I'm encouraged by her progress. She's resilient. She gets that from her mother. In December we had our first Christmas in the new house. I put up a tree and Gabby helped decorate it with ornaments I'd saved from her childhood, including some from when Simone was young. Mom made this one, Gabby said, holding up a handmade ornament from Simone's kindergarten class. Her picture is on it. She was 6 in that photo. She was pretty. Just like you. We hung Simone's ornaments in special places on the tree. Her childhood ones, her high school ones, even the first Christmas as Mrs. Carter ornament from her wedding year. Is it weird that we're keeping Dad's ornaments? Gabby asked. Not if you want to keep them. They're part of your history. I don't want them. But I want Mom's. Then we keep Mom's and donate Dad's. This is your home too, Gabby. You get a say in what we keep. She helped me pack up Brandon's ornaments to donate. It felt right, clearing out the last remnants of him from our lives. Christmas morning, Gabby came running into my room at 6 a.m. Grandma, Santa came. At 12 she still believed. Or maybe she just wanted to believe. Either way I played along. Under the tree were presents I'd carefully chosen. Art supplies because she'd shown talent in her classes. Books because she was reading voraciously now. New clothes and bright colors she loved. And one special gift, a locket with Simone's picture inside. She cried when she opened it. It's perfect. I thought you might like to keep your mom close to your heart. Can we visit her grave today? Of course. We spent Christmas afternoon at the cemetery. I'd brought flowers, bright red poinsettias that glowed against the snow. Gabby knelt by her mother's headstone. Hi, Mom. It's me. I know it's been a while since we visited. Things have been crazy. She talked to Simone for 15 minutes, telling her about school, her friends, the new house. I stood back, giving her space. Mom, I just want you to know that I'm okay now. Grandma takes good care of me. I know you're probably mad at Dad for what he did. I was mad too. But I'm trying not to be mad anymore because Ms. Baker says anger is heavy, and I don't want to carry heavy things around. She touched the headstone gently. I miss you every day. But I'm happy too. Is that okay? Can I be sad that you're gone but also happy with my life? The wind rustled through the trees and Gabby smiled. Thanks, Mom. I love you. On the drive home, Gabby asked, do you think Mom would be proud of me? I know she would be. You're strong and brave and kind. Everything she hoped you'd be. Do you think she's proud of you too? The question caught me off guard. I hope so. She is. I can feel it. That night, Trish came over for Christmas dinner. Jerome stopped by with his wife. We had a small celebration, nothing fancy, just people who loved each other sharing a meal. To new beginnings, Jerome said, raising his glass. To family, I added. To being home, Gabby said. We clinked glasses and ate turkey and laughed at Jerome's terrible jokes. It was perfect. After everyone left and Gabby was in bed, I sat in my new living room looking at our Christmas tree. The lights twinkled, reflecting off Simone's ornaments. 6 months ago, I'd been living in ignorance, sending money to a man who was betraying my trust and neglecting my granddaughter. 6 months ago, Gabby had been hungry, scared, and alone. Now she was fed, safe, and surrounded by people who loved her. Now we had a home filled with light and laughter. Now we had a future. I pulled out my phone and sent a text to Jerome. "Thank you for everything. You saved us." He replied immediately, "You saved yourself. I just helped with the paperwork." Maybe. But I couldn't have done it without him, without Rachel, without Trish, without all the people who'd believed in us. My phone buzzed again. A message from an unknown number. I almost deleted it, but curiosity made me open it. "This is Brandon. I'm not supposed to contact you, but I wanted you to know that I'm glad Gabby is with you. Tell her I love her, even if she doesn't want to hear it. And thank you for being there when I wasn't." I stared at the message for a long time. Then I deleted it without responding. Whatever Brandon was feeling, whatever regrets he had, they weren't my problem anymore. His relationship with Gabby was something she'd navigate when she was ready, if she was ever ready. My job was just to love her and keep her safe. And that was exactly what I'd do. Summer arrived with brilliant sunshine and temperatures that made air conditioning a necessity. Gabby had finished 7th grade with excellent grades, a complete turnaround from her failing marks the year before. "I got all A's and B's," she announced, showing me her report card. "Mrs. Thompson said she's proud of me." "I'm proud of you too, baby. You worked hard. Can we celebrate?" "Absolutely. What do you want to do? Can we go to the amusement park? Taylor's family is going this weekend and they invited me." 6 months ago, Gabby had no friends and no social life. Now she had Taylor, Melissa, and 3 other girls she hung out with regularly. Normal teenage friendships full of giggling and sleepovers and inside jokes I didn't understand. "Sure. I'll talk to Taylor's mom and make arrangements." The amusement park trip was a success. Gabby came home sunburned and exhausted, full of stories about roller coasters and funnel cakes and the cute boy who'd smiled at Taylor. "We're going to the movies next week," she said. "Can I go?" "With Taylor's family?" "No, just us kids. Her older brother will drive us." I hesitated. Normal parents let their kids do this. But after everything that had happened, the thought of Gabby being out of my sight made my heart race. "Grandma," Gabby said gently, "I'll be fine. Taylor's brother is 17, and he's super responsible. We'll just watch a movie and get ice cream after. I'll text you every hour if you want." "Every half hour." She grinned. "Deal." Ms. Baker had warned me about this. "You're going to be overprotective," she'd said. "It's natural after what you've both been through. But part of healing is learning to trust again for both of you." So I let Gabby go to the movies. And she texted me every half hour like clockwork, including a selfie of her and her friends making silly faces in the theater lobby. "See," she said when she got home. "I told you it would be fine. You were right. I'm sorry for worrying so much." "It's okay. I get it." In July, Jerome called with news about the civil case. Brandon's payments are coming through regularly. $1,500 a month like clockwork. He got a job in the prison library and is putting that money toward restitution too. That's good. There's something else. He wants to send Gabby a letter. Not a direct letter, but one that would go through the court-appointed mediator first. He needs your permission. What's Gabby say? She hasn't been asked yet. That's up to you. I talked to Gabby that evening. We were making dinner together, a routine we'd developed. She was getting good at cooking. "Baby, your dad wants to send you a letter. Through a mediator so he can't contact you directly. What do you think?" She stopped stirring the pasta sauce. "What kind of letter?" "I don't know. Probably apologizing, explaining himself. Whatever he thinks you need to hear." "Do I have to read it if he sends it?" "Absolutely not. It would be completely your choice." She thought about it while she finished the sauce. "Okay, he can send it, but I might not read it right away. Maybe I'll wait until I'm older." "That's perfectly fine." The letter arrived 2 weeks later, sealed in an envelope with the mediator's stamp. I put it in a drawer in my office and told Gabby where it was. "Whenever you're ready, if you're ever ready, it's there." She nodded and went back to watching television. She didn't seem particularly interested. In August we took a vacation. Just the 2 of us to the beach. Gabby had never been to the ocean. "It's so big," she breathed, standing on the sand and staring at the waves. "I can't see the end of it." "Pretty amazing, isn't it?" We spent a week building sandcastles, collecting shells, and eating seafood. Gabby learned to body surf. I got sunburned despite layers of sunscreen. It was perfect. One evening we sat on the beach watching the sunset. The sky was painted in shades of orange and pink and purple. Grandma, can I tell you something? Always. I'm happy. Like really happy. For the first time since Mom died, I feel like things are okay. I'm so glad, baby. I know I'm supposed to be sad about Dad being in prison. And I guess I am, a little. But mostly I just feel relieved. Does that make me a bad person? Not at all. Makes you human. You're allowed to feel relief that you're safe now. Ms. Baker says the same thing. She says all my feelings are valid, even the ones that seem contradictory. Ms. Baker is a smart woman. Gabby picked up a shell and turned it over in her hands. Do you think I'll ever want to see Dad again? I don't know. Maybe. Maybe not. There's no right answer. What would you want me to do? I want you to do whatever feels right for you. If you never want to see him, that's okay. If you change your mind when you're older, that's okay too. This is your life, Gabby. You get to make these choices. Thanks, Grandma. For what? For not making me feel bad about any of it. For just letting me feel what I feel. I pulled her close. That's what family does, baby. We watched the sun sink below the horizon, painting the ocean in shades of gold. The second week of September, Gabby started 8th grade. She joined the drama club and was trying out for the fall play. I'm probably not going to get a big part, she said. But it might be fun to try. She got cast as the lead. I can't believe it, she said, clutching the cast list. Me. The lead role. I can believe it. You're talented and hardworking. They'd be crazy not to cast you. We celebrated with ice cream, and I immediately marked my calendar for every performance. The play was in November, a musical adaptation of a fairy tale. Gabby practiced her songs constantly, her voice echoing through the house. Opening night, I sat in the front row with Trish and Jerome. The curtain rose and there was Gabby in a bright blue dress, singing with confidence I'd never seen before. That's your grandbaby up there, Trish whispered, tears in her eyes. I know. She's amazing, isn't she? After the performance, Gabby ran to me, still in costume and makeup. Did you see? I didn't forget any lines and I hit all the high notes. You were perfect. Absolutely perfect. We took photos, dozens of them. Gabby with her castmates, Gabby with her directors, Gabby with me. Moments I'd treasure forever. At home that night, she asked if we could frame one of the photos. Which one? The one of us together. I want to put it on my nightstand. We found the perfect frame and placed it next to the locket I'd given her for Christmas. 2 reminders, one of her mother's love, one of her present happiness. In December, we got news that Brandon was up for early release due to good behavior. He'd served 18 months of his 5-year sentence. What does that mean for us? Gabby asked when I told her. Nothing unless you want it to. He still can't contact you directly. If he gets out, he'll be on parole and required to continue therapy and payments. Will he try to see me? He might ask. But you still get to decide. She nodded, processing this. I'm not ready yet. Then that's the answer. Brandon was released in January, 2 years after Gabby had first warned me to follow him. Jerome handled all communications, making it clear that any contact with Gabby would be initiated by her and only when she was ready. He accepted the terms, Jerome reported. He's living in a halfway house and working at a grocery store. He seems genuinely committed to paying back the money and turning his life around. Good for him. Natasha, he's not a monster. He's a man who made terrible choices and is facing the consequences. I know. But he's not my concern anymore. Gabby is. And Gabby was thriving. She'd grown 3 inches in the past year. Her grades were excellent. She had friends and hobbies and dreams for the future. I want to be a teacher, she announced one day. Like Mrs. Thompson. She makes kids feel safe and valued. I want to do that too. You'd be an amazing teacher. Or maybe a therapist like Miss Baker. Helping people work through hard things. You could do both. Teach and then get a degree in counseling. She grinned. I have time to decide. She did. All the time in the world now that she was safe and loved and supported. One Saturday in early spring, almost 2 years after the custody ruling, Gabby came to me with a request. Can we invite Dad to my 8th grade graduation? I was surprised but tried not to show it. Do you want him there? I think so. Not like to celebrate with us after. But maybe he could come to the ceremony. I've been thinking about it a lot, and Ms. Baker says I might regret it if I don't give him a chance. What do you want from him? I don't know. Maybe just to see that I'm okay without him? That I turned out fine despite everything? I understood that. The need to show him what he'd missed, what he'd almost destroyed. If that's what you want, we can arrange it. But he sits separately from us and he leaves right after the ceremony. That's fine. Jerome set up the meeting through the mediator. Brandon could attend the graduation but had to maintain distance. No direct contact unless Gabby initiated it. Graduation day arrived bright and sunny. Gabby wore her new maroon dress and cap and gown. She'd been chosen to give a speech as one of the top students in her class. I sat with Trish and Jerome's wife in the family section. I could see Brandon 3 rows back, alone. He looked older, thinner, sadder. When Gabby's name was called for her speech, she walked to the podium with her head high. 2 years ago, I didn't think I'd be standing here today, she began. I was struggling in school, struggling at home, struggling to see a future for myself. But I had people who believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. She looked right at me. My grandmother saved my life. She showed me what real love looks like, what family really means. She taught me that I deserve good things, that I'm worthy of care and happiness. Tears streamed down my face. To my fellow graduates, we all have people who helped us get here. Parents, teachers, friends, mentors. Take a moment to thank them. Because none of us do this alone. The audience applauded. Gabby returned to her seat and the ceremony continued. Afterward, Brandon approached us in the parking lot. He stopped 10 feet away, uncertain. Congratulations, Gabrielle, he said quietly. Your speech was beautiful. Thank you. An awkward silence stretched between them. I'm proud of you, Brandon continued. I know I have no right to be, but I am. Gabby looked at him for a long moment. I'm doing well. Grandma takes good care of me. I can see that. You look happy. I am happy. Another silence. Then Gabby said, I'm not ready to have a relationship with you yet. Maybe someday. But not now. I understand. I just wanted you to know that I'm sorry. For everything. And I'm trying to be better. Okay. Brandon nodded, his eyes wet. Take care of yourself, Gabrielle. You too. He walked away and Gabby turned to me. Can we go home now? Taylor's mom is bringing over a cake to celebrate. Of course, baby. As we drove home, Gabby was quiet. Finally, she said, I'm glad I saw him. But I'm also glad he's not part of my everyday life anymore. Those two things can both be true. Yeah. At home, Taylor and Melissa and the other girls were waiting with balloons and a cake. They squealed and hugged and took a million photos. I watched from the kitchen as Gabby laughed with her friends, so different from the scared, hungry child she'd been 2 years ago. She caught my eye and smiled, mouthing, I love you. I mouthed it back. This was our happy ending. Not perfect, not without scars, but real and honest and full of love. We'd survived the worst. We'd fought for each other. We'd won. And now we had the rest of our lives to enjoy the peace we'd earned. Together.